not having it whatsoever. This is why it was so tonally confused if it was a child's thing or not. Hi there, welcome to my channel Reviews with Jules, and today I am going to be reviewing Netflix's Cursed. So let's jump into it. Cursed is an adaptation from a book. It is a teen fantasy drama. There are 10 episodes of around 60 minutes in length, and you can stream the series now on Netflix. In an alternative Arthurian legend, there is a magical sword wielded by a teen sorceress called Nimue, who teams up with Arthur to save her fae kind from the battle against the church and the king, who are trying to make the fae extinct. We might as well start off with the things that I quite liked about the series, because there were little. Yeah, that's quite awkward. I did think that Arthur and Nimue's romance was quite endearing, but it never really had that sort of really sexy vibe to it, or really kind of like childish, ooh, we like each other. It was kind of in between, and I'll get onto the tonal confusion in a minute. But I did quite like the actors, their connection together, I did quite like that. And talking about that, I did really like the diversity in the cast, especially with Arthur and Morgana. And talking of Morgana, there are 2 twists at the end with the Weeping Monk and Morgana, and that comes in like the last episode. And I was actually shocked, I'll be honest, because even though I'm not a big fan of the series and it was very predictable, I do feel like these 2 twists at the end did save it that little bit. The other thing that I really liked is anything that's sort of like Arthurian. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, if I'm being honest, but anything that's set in the world of like Arthur times, there's just something really kind of interesting about it, and that sort of idea of that history is really kind of appealing, because we haven't really had a sort of period drama along the lines of this really since Game of Thrones. But I mean, that is a kind of another kind of bracket. I'm not comparing Cursed to Game of Thrones, but I just think in terms of the aesthetic, so I feel like that's where they were trying to go with it, however failed. But I do think that that's something that will be familiar with the audience who did like Game of Thrones. Finally, the one thing that I did kind of like about it was that it was filmed down my road in Cornwall. There's a place called Holywell Beach, and right at the very end of the episode you see these 2 big rocks where the ships come round, and that is Gull Rocks. And I worked there for a year by this like holiday park, so it was really nice to see local destinations being used in this Netflix series. Now, I have a massive long list of all the stuff that I was trying to get off my chest to why I felt the series just failed. And first and foremost, when I was watching episode 1, the tone was all over the place. It was kind of like, this is why I've categorised it as a teen fantasy, because it kind of had that childlike, you know, oh, we're in a sort of magical world. But then on the other hand, it wasn't too gory enough to be an adult drama. So it was kind of a mishmash between the middle. And I kind of really felt like it would have been better if they did push that gore and the sort of sexiness of it. Just why? Just why? These comic book transitions in the middle of it, I was just like, no, not having it whatsoever. This is why it was so tonally confused if it was a child's thing or not, because these transitions in the middle, I was like, okay, maybe like once or twice, like with the credits, or, you know, merging into something. But literally it was kind of like throughout, and I was like, do they not have more innovative ways how they want to transition? And I just felt like it really like took me out of it, and I just really didn't like it. Considering this series is on Netflix and going worldwide, you would have thought that they would have put a little bit more money into the budget for the CGI, because especially at the end, there is these sort of like shooting lightning coming out of hands that just looks so terrible. And there are other things like when the people's heads are chopped off, and I just think what might have been better for the series is if they went maybe that step over to the comic book world, you know, and had, you know, all this sort of like Sin City-esque, so it was a bit more stylized, and if they had the blood splatters going everywhere or something like that. I just feel like it would have aided the series to be better if they did something like that. I was also not a big fan of the script. I really felt that it let it down in places. I didn't really particularly think it was neither here nor there, and some bits felt really awkward. Along with the script, there was something quite frustrating that each episode felt like it was building up to something and building up to something, even just within that episode. And then nothing really came of it. So you were like, okay, something's gonna happen, oh, okay, something doesn't really happen. Or even when stuff does happen, there's not really that big thing made of it. So there is this section where they're smuggling Fae because they've all been burnt out of their villages, so they're trying to transport them to a safe haven without the church finding out. And then so you're kind of going around and you think, right, something's building up, and then you find like a pack of them all slaughtered, and it's kind of this sort of sad moment that Katherine is sort of like wandering around like, oh, they've just killed my people. And I was like, but that was it. There wasn't like this big, oh, something massive has happened. Disappointing. Let's talk about Katherine Langford. Now, yes, I did really love her performance in 13 Reasons Why, which you might know her from, and now she is the lead of this, and I just really did not buy that she was this queen of the Fae. She just really didn't command space much for me, and I think that's also because when she was doing all these fighting battles, I wasn't buying it. I think they could have got a stunt double in, or they could have done some more training, or, you know, it was just like she was wandering around with this sword, and I just thought, okay, she does not look like she has the strength to cut a man in two. I just think the series was quite poor as a whole, especially the ending. And you know when there's a certain point where you think, okay, you should end there, and then they continue and do something that sort of goes plateaus, and it's like, oh, it could have ended there and been like, oh, but then instead it went, oh, we're going to continue it a little bit, and we're going to do something that is a little bit irrelevant, and it sort of leaves the audience going, oh, okay, crap. So this is the thing, I really liked Arthur's character, but there wasn't much sort of substance, because he was, yes, a beeline character because it is about Nimue, but I also felt like because Arthur does go on to become king and have Knights of the Round Table, I wanted him to have a bit more of like starting to like have those understandings or those developments of, oh, I could be king, oh, maybe I should have a Knights of the Round Table. Like, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted something a little bit more realistic that we knew about in his character and story arc throughout the whole series, and there wasn't. Pym was by far my favourite character and actor. She was so natural, she was so interesting and engaging and funny. I loved her. She is played by Lily Newmark, who I also discovered is in Sex Education. She's in these other roles, and I really feel like she's an underrated actor, really, because, you know, seeing her in this stuff, she's so confident, she's so at ease, you know, I really like how she delivers her lines and the sort of, you know, charismatic nature that she has when she does present herself, and I kind of really feel like I want to see her in more. That, I mean, I would have loved to have seen her as Nimue, you know, because I feel like she would have done a better job. Terrible script, terrible CGI, they need to severely work on their fight scenes, which is why I gave Cursed a generous 3 Jules. I did say a couple of controversial things, so I would love to hear what you thought of the series, so put a comment below whether you liked it or didn't and why, because I'd love to hear your opinion, and in the meantime you can check out these reviews. See ya!